And once again, we see our 9 rights of drug administration talked about again on page 17. On your particular floor, you're going to have different ways that you pass meds. They're known as drug distribution systems, and it's important to recognize them. In some cases, you have what's known as a floor stock system, or it used to be called a ward stock system, kind of an old-fashioned name from back when we had just huge wards with patients separated only by a screen. You don't see this as much with drugs anymore because of infection control worries, but you will see a floor stock system where you can get supplies for your patient, like IV bags and those non-skid socks and things like that. Then you have an individual prescription order system run by the pharmacy. The most common thing you have is a unit dose system where every day you get your patient's meds for the next dose or the next 24 hours. And then most places will have a computerized or automated dispensing system like an AcuDose or a Pyxis, where you have to put in a username and password to get access to it. You're going to see that with your narcotics. There is an example of a ward or floor stock system where you go in the room, you get what you need. You used to peel off a little sticker and put it on the patient's daily card. Now everything's pretty much computer and barcode. Unit dose system gives you enough medication for 1 dose or 1 day, and you store it in your med cart in the patient's particular drawer. The automated dispensing system. Most places have AcuDose or even higher level. Sometimes you just have to put your thumbprint and you can get into the drawer. Other times you have to put in a password. It just kind of depends. My thumbprint would never work on our AcuDose. I always had to end up just putting in my password anyway, cold hands or something. This is a computerized MAR where everything's online and you just get your patient's meds out of the big cart and you take your what we used to call cows, computer on wheels, into the patient's room. You scan the bracelet, you scan the med, and if there's anything wrong, if they don't match, then a warning comes up and it doesn't allow you to go any further in that MAR. You can't administer the med until you figure out what the problem is. This is an old school Cardex. Our book talks about it on page 18. You probably will never see those in the wild again, although some places still have paper charting and paper MARs. But I think gradually everything's going to go to online and everything's going to be computerized. Now, let's talk about medication errors. Nobody wants to talk about them or think about them, but we are going to make them because we're human. We don't want to, and we should do absolutely everything in our power not to. But sometimes they happen. So on your list on page 19, we have a list of processes that you have to follow if you should make a medication error. The first priority is to immediately check the patient. Say, oh, shouldn't you call the nurse? Shouldn't you call the doctor? Yeah, you want to do that. But first you have to see what you're dealing with. The minute you realize you have made an error, you need to check on the patient and find out what condition they're in. Because if you notify the physician, they're going to want to know. So you're going to immediately check on the patient. If they've already had the medication on board, you want to check their vital signs and make sure that everything is okay. That is your first priority, to look to your patient. Then you notify the healthcare provider and implement any orders he or she gives you. At some point, you need to notify your supervisor, but in the book, it kind of gives it in this order. So you're going to keep assessing the patient and you let your charge nurse know. Then you want to document the findings in the patient record. You're going to keep your language extremely basic and non-committal. You're not going to write in personal language. You're not going to write something like, oh, I made a mistake, you know, I overdosed this patient and da da da. You just write what happened, just the facts. Patient received 20 milligrams hydralazine IV. Order was for 10 milligrams hydralazine IV. Current vital signs, and then you enter them. Physician notified. No orders received. We'll continue to monitor. And then you're going to go in and you're going to keep an eye on your patient, and you're going to watch for a change in the patient's status and continue to monitor. One of the things that you have to do is to put facility documentation. Now, this used to be called a